or be learned. Thank you for joining me on this week's guest series. I'm your host, Sheila Shaker, and let's talk. So I'm here with Noah. Noah is a good friend of mine, and he's super into the politics game and the psychology behind that, which is pretty interesting. You want to tell a little bit about yourself, Noah?
Yeah, I'm Noah Casamano. I've been working in politics for about 5 years now. Started off in the county legislature, and that was a good introduction. I think a lot of kids nowadays kind of start by being like a intern at the U.S. Capitol, where you're just giving tours. But really, I think getting an introduction to how personal politics really is, you got to start at the local level. And oh my God, politics is all just like a shit fight. Yeah, pretty much at the local level.
What about you? You started at school level too, huh? You started your way from smaller community, worked your way to local. Is the game plan to branch out towards more state, federal?
Yeah, so right now, I'm about to actually leave my position right now, but I've been pretty much acting as the communications director for the Georgia House Democratic Caucus, which has been it's a fantastic experience. I started working there a year ago on communication strategy for their campaigns. Obviously, we did not flip the state house in Georgia yet, but we're looking forward to 2022, and Georgia's looking very positive for Democrat candidates. I think voters were very clear that in Georgia that we're looking for change. And I think it was clear by the fact that we voted for Joe Biden and Senators Ossoff and Warnock.
So you gave me a couple papers to read, papers that you wrote, which were pretty interesting. And I guess to segue, you talked a lot about media influencers and how that's changed the political game from what it once was, right? Especially starting in around 2008 with Obama administration.
Absolutely. And I do want to give a shout out to my old mentor and a really close friend of mine, Dr. Drew Weston, who wrote The Political Brain. And if anyone really wants a good introduction into political psychology, reading The Political Brain is probably the best way to do that. The only other book I can really recommend is Frank Luntz has a great book on political communications too. So yeah, when I got to school and I started, researching political psychology, one of the biggest things that I became interested in was why it's pretty much something that everyone in political science is interested in. How did Donald Trump become president, right? How did he become president? Running the campaign he ran, and what kind of campaign did he run, and where can we find the differences between when Democrats succeed, which was 2008 and 2012, and then what kind of campaign did Clinton run in 2016, and where were the differences there? Why didn't she win? And there's a lot of reasons why Hillary Clinton did not win, and I'm not going to claim to know all of them, nor am I going to say that what I say is definitively correct for why Hillary Clinton lost. But what we really see is, starting in 2008, and this is just, everyone recognizes this, that the Obama campaign was able to utilize these new tools like social media to mobilize their base and to connect with their followers. They had this little war room where they locked up a bunch of data monkeys to go through big data, because we're the digital age now, and we can target advertising better, and we can mobilize better on these websites. And one of the biggest things that, when we think about Obama 2008, we think about his slogan,
hope and stuff.
Hope and, change, and yes, we can, right? And first of all, besides work in political psychology and connections on social media, I've also done a lot of research into values-based messaging. And the first thing I would say is that literally hope and change are just two values that he just threw out there, and it stuck, right? We were coming out of the Great Recession, or we're not coming out of the Great Recession, but we're in the Great Recession, and we were looking for a populist, right? That was when we started looking for a populist president, and he gave us that, right? Hope and change, kind of vague sketches of policy plans. He said he was going to provide us a cheaper healthcare, and we weren't going to be in this forever war in the Middle East, which he didn't really pull us out of either. And he said, green energy is important. Not much was done on green energy. Some Paris Climate Accord, yeah, it's great, but no one's meeting the
and Bin Laden, right?
Requirements. Yeah. Score one for Obama. He killed Bin Laden. Good for him.
Good for him.
One of the biggest things that he did was the recession package. He really spent all this political capital on being able to get us out of the recession in the first 4 years. And then he couldn't get past the Affordable Care Act that he wanted, and we got this kind of weird amalgamation where there's no public option and there's just these healthcare marketplaces. And not every state has fully expanded them even. I mean, we've been working on this right now in Georgia's big policy issue that we're about to be touching at the State House is, the Kemp plan to expand Medicaid in Georgia really didn't make any sense. Only 10% of the people that could be covered would be covered, and we're basically going to be spending the exact same amount of money. And the Biden administration just came in and they said, this plan doesn't make any sense. Why are we spending this much?
Yeah.
Biden, I believe the number is they're going to fully cover, the federal government fully covers our expansion for 500,000 Georgia citizens for no money. We pay no money for 6 years and only pay 10% forever after that. And so, yeah, I don't know where any of that was going. I was talking about Obama. Obama did really well with the internet. That's the main plan.
I guess, going back on that, him and his administration going for the internet, right? It kind of took like a, stab in the dark a little bit, right? Because the internet was just blowing up even more than it has now, of course. So it's kind of interesting to think that his campaign was like, you know what, this is going to be the future. I think we could get a lot of people could recognize our campaign if we pushed social media more than like news committees and interviews and like campaigning in other ways.
Absolutely. And also, I mean, historically, and you talk to pretty much anyone in campaigning who's over a certain age, maybe over the age of 35, and you ask them, can you bring out college age and young voters to go vote? And every one of them will say that's a waste of money. That money's better spent on people on the fence and not even caring about the college age voter because they're just not going to come vote. But because they were the first ones to kind of go into the social media space, and that's pretty much where all college age voters were, they were able to connect with them more than any other campaign was able to before. And I think, and I wouldn't necessarily say that Obama won simply because of social media. I think that's a big reason why he won. I think that Obama won because we were tired of the same old. We wanted something different.
He was younger.
Yeah, he was charismatic. He was the first, like I said, the first populist president that we've ever had. It was President Obama. Just coming in again with these vague value sketches of hope and change, not really telling anyone what that was, but it sounded good, and he said, "Yes, we can." He brought the Big Ten in. He said, "Everyone can. Yes, we can." It's more personal. It's not, "Yes, I am going to do this." It's not like, "I'm going to build back America better."
Yeah.
It's we are going to do this thing together.
It's all that psychology that you're talking about, right? He used social media to appeal to a younger audience. The fact that he was charismatic got more people's attention. It's kind of like a repeat we see with what happened with JFK, right? When TV started becoming a big thing, and he capitalized on that, and he looked better on TV. And the whole thing with Obama capitalizing on the beginning of a social media train that I think in the next minute or two we're going to talk about how media influencers have transitioned that even further than when Obama started.
Absolutely. And back then it was, I don't even know when Twitter came out, but the one that I can really say is Facebook was around in 2008. I believe Twitter was around in 2008. Someone can correct me on that.
Around the same time frame.
Yeah, sound off in the comment section below. Let me know. But, with the advent of all these more visual-based platforms like a Vine or an Instagram or TikTok now. I hate TikTok. I'm not on TikTok. I have...
Don't look for him.
Yeah, no.
He won't be there.
I will not be there. You will not find my political insights on TikTok. I leave that to my shit posts on Twitter. But absolutely, social media influencers have been able to take these visual mediums and they've kind of inserted themselves into our immediate social circle. So before social media, you were constrained by geographic location if you wanted to make friends. If you wanted to have a community group, you were constrained by the people you were around. And generally, those people would look like you or pray like you or speak like you or vote like you. But you couldn't force that. You couldn't be certain. your environment would produce you. Now, there is no incentive to be stuck in geographic location. Now, with forums, anonymous message boards like 4chan, Reddit, and then Instagram and TikTok and all of that, you can find your niche community.
Yeah.
And you don't need, it's just whoever you are and whatever you're interested in, you're going to find your niche. You're going to get into it, and that's going to be your community now. That's going to be your close-knit community. And it's causing people to not have to question anything that they believe. It's forcing people to not have to interact with people that they don't want to interact with people. And it's allowing us to create our close circle where we get our news, who we talk to. It's all just echoing back to us now. And so when social media influencers are able to insert themselves into that stream of consciousness, that news feed or whatever on Instagram, when you're scrolling through and seeing people that you've self-selected into seeing their content, and so you're going to be more willing to accept the information that they're sharing to you, they now feel like they're our close friends. And if you go into their comment section, you will see people talking with them as if they're commenting on their best friend's vacation photos, right? And expecting to elicit a response from the influencers. However, there's no motivation on the influencer's part to have to build this relationship with them. This relationship is completely one-sided. And this person is basically a parasite on, getting so much money off of just you looking and pretending that they care.
So I guess I wanted to mention a couple points, right? Transitioning from what we talked about, I think it's interesting that since Obama started, when he started, social media was still fairly new, and there was a lot of social media real estate, basically, in a way, to capitalize on. And then ever since then, since it's gotten so big, now you can capitalize on Facebook ads, Google ads, and like you talked about how there's no geographical isolation or divide, you can now target ads in any state by a click of a button from your room, and even further than that. And that's saying this is
and it's cheaper.
It is cheaper
than traditional media.
Yep.
And on top of that, and again, goes back to the social media influencer kind of just living underneath, skin deep into your newsfeed and disseminating information with you almost not even realizing it. A lot of these ads that are now on social media look just like another post. So you don't even really fully realize you're looking at an ad until you read the little disclaimer or whatever that they put on it. Luckily some of the social media websites have started to curb back political advertising. Twitter doesn't allow political advertising anymore. I'm pretty sure, and again, people can sound off in the comment section below, I'm pretty sure Facebook limited the time frame before an election when you're allowed to have political ads. So like a week before the election, I think they cut off political ads. But even more important to how Donald Trump won and why Donald Trump was successful, Obama realized it and capitalized on it. Donald Trump perfected it. Donald Trump's team were able to micro-target better than anyone else. No one else was micro-targeting on Facebook to the degree that they were. And their and Russian disinformation campaigns and domestic disinformation campaigns, they were all able to utilize this kind of, advertising, macro and micro targeting to get people to vote for Donald Trump or not vote for Hillary Clinton. And, another layer to that, people think that, Russian disinformation or these disinformation campaigns were just meant to, rile up racist white people or whatever and get them to vote for Donald Trump. That's not really what was going on. They were doing this to both Democrats and Republicans. Their goal was not to make people mad at each other or to get the worst candidates in there. Their goal was just to make Americans confused and not know what or how or where to get their information from. And so they would rely even more on these microcosm, like small little groups. Like I'm in this group on Facebook called Things Brian Kemp Just Found Out Yesterday. And it's just a joke. That's a joke because Brian Kemp didn't know until really late into the game that asymptomatic people could transmit the coronavirus. On that page, I'm cognizant of it. It's just memes. It's just memes making fun of Governor Brian Kemp.
Yeah.
I don't know how many of those people are actually people
Yeah.
posting those memes and not just some dude in Moscow saying, oh, we could say Kemp said this, even though Kemp didn't say that, and I'll say, that sounds like something Kemp would say, and go ahead and believe it, right?
Yeah.
Like,
no one fact checks.
Yeah, no one fact checks anything because both the left and the right, and I'm talking about progressive left, Bernie Sanders, and I guess all of the right now is just Trump, pretty much. They don't trust institutionalized news. Any kind of traditional news media anymore. They're not going to read it. It's got to be on Medium for it to be real. Because that's how you know you're getting good information, is because you don't know anything about the organization that wrote it, right? Or the person. It just says what you want to believe, and so you're like, that's good news media. I'm going to, continue to read that. Vox, Vice, all these, like, hip new, lots of graphics, and, all these traditional forms of media have gone thrown out the window by both the left and the right. And so neither side...
because they annihilated them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So neither side really has, first of all, within their own group, someone who knows the truth other than the leader at that time, which is Bernie Sanders or Donald Trump or AOC or whatever. So they don't have, a set of facts or a place to get those facts. It's all individualized. There's like 1,000 different blogs you can go on if you're a progressive, and they'll tell you progressive things. Or if you're a Republican, and they'll tell you Republican things. So then it's left to one person, the leader of that group, to be the arbiter of truth. And so all of these things just mean that we're not getting our facts from anywhere the same. No one's there to tell us what to believe or not, because we don't trust the establishment anymore. We're, populists. And that's just leading to more polarization and just craziness, because no one's willing to listen to anything that doesn't make them have an emotional boost or, an adrenaline rush or a serotonin hit. You know?
So you mentioned a lot. I kind of want to unpack this. So, okay, you're talking psychology of politics. We went from how it all started with Obama starting to use social media, and it was a new thing fairly. And then we went straight into how the real estate got higher. So now you got to start attacking. And then from there, it looks like people found the new technique, and even brands and companies do this all the time, right? They use social media influencers because they have 100 million followers or 50 million followers. And you said Donald Trump perfected that. And I was thinking, okay, well, that makes a lot of sense, right? He, even to the point where, obviously he did things that Obama hadn't even really done, which was like he would sell his merch, and a lot of the followers of people that supported him with high follower counts, like I guess someone like Jake Paul, would wear his hat, Donald Trump's hat.
Absolutely, and that's something, and Democrats have a really much easier time at this, getting pop culture people to come and rally for them, and But what I was saying about Donald Trump being really good at micro-targeting wasn't because he got a lot of people who were famous to support him, right? I'm saying that they micro-targeted better than any other campaign. They figured out who they needed to pull out, who they needed to talk to, and they just directly reached into that subset of people. But you are absolutely right with this branding thing. The Obama logo was everywhere. If you don't realize that Pepsi changed their logo in 2008 to look much more like the Obama logo, you're out of your mind, because everyone was so goddamn clear to everybody that's literally what they were doing. The Obama logo was great, right? Everyone will wear it. It was a symbol of, you projected who you are and what you vote for. It was cool. No one was wearing a Hillary Arrow shirt, I'll tell you that much. People were wearing the MAGA hat. And people then also memed the MAGA hat. And just put other words onto it to, make it more liberal or whatever, right? But still, in a way, even changing the words so it didn't support Donald Trump gave Donald Trump that advertising, because everyone saw it and just said MAGA.
Yeah, and that's interesting because they capitalized on it, while people like Bernie Sanders, while it naturally some advertising and meme culture came out of his campaigning, he didn't quite capitalize on all the memeing of, because there's so many Bernie Sanders memes, and it doesn't look like his campaign really capitalized on that, right?
Where I think, I see more Bernie Sanders bumper stickers on laptops and cars than I do people walking around wearing. I think I probably even see more than I see Joe Biden stickers and stuff going around. I think what the and it's going to be a little bit antithetical to what I said earlier about pulling out the college age voters. But right now, I believe, I think there's a lot of evidence to support this, is that people are starting to, because we're all living our lives online, people are starting to see that political engagement is moving away from, and not to say that there aren't in-person protests, I think we saw that very clearly both over the summer and at the Capitol on January 6th. Of course, that being a violent insurrection, and the other ones being people asking to not get shot by the cops. Political engagement up until that point, I think probably this summer, had just been, well, I'm going to share this meme, and that's going to be enough to show that I'm politically engaged. I'm going to make a meme, and I'm going to share it with my friends, or I'm going to follow this meme page, and I'll reshare it whenever it says something, you know, politically that I like. And so we moved away from direct action, actually calling your legislator, actually going to the polls and voting. People are like, I shared. That's enough. That means I voted, right? Like, I shared that. Yeah. And so Bernie Sanders really did a terrible job doing two things. One, connecting to older people and people of color. And two, he relied so heavily on pulling out college students who either don't have the time to vote, don't know how to vote, don't care to vote. Fair Fight's in Georgia's trying to prove that that's wrong. And they've done a good job at pulling out the college vote. But I think he relied too heavily on thinking that these people who, and I hate to say the phrase, these people, Bernie Sanders fans, don't come attack me, who generally are just posting on Twitter. But when it comes to actually showing up at the polls, like, that's a long line to vote in. Like, I don't know if I want to stand in line that long.
But even that, I feel like, I don't know, I guess the government kind of capitalized on social media in that aspect, right? The whole sticker thing, everyone would take pictures of them wearing or holding the I voted sticker. And even that became a social media trend. And the hashtag I voted and all these voted, like, Snapchat filters and stuff like that, right? Like, I feel like even...
No, and that can be a positive. That's definitely a positive thing, that we are making voting cool again. You know, that's a great way to socially influence people.
Wow, I like it.
Yeah, maybe I should coin the phrase or something. Make a lot of money on Instagram. So it's a great thing that, like, oh, cool, I posted on social media, look how cool it is that I have this sticker and blah, blah, blah. It's getting better. And it wasn't there for him in 2016, and it wasn't there for him in 2020. And I think the difference between why Donald Trump's success was found in this, like, just be a meme and just let other people dictate what they believe about you through those images is because Donald Trump's extreme end, the white supremacist loons, there's a lot more of them in this state because it was the old way of doing it. Like, it was like the old tradition. Now, but they're going to die out soon. They're almost out, right? Like that. See, this is the difference, right? So he's doing well because he's got the percentage to be white and racist. But Bernie Sanders is just a little bit too low to be able to do that, right? And we'll soon see that the crazy train is going to switch over to the Democrat side when more young people either become of eligible age to vote, register to vote, become more interested with politics. But all this has to happen while Joe Biden is president, and a lot of young people are still pissed. They're not happy with the direction of the country. And so you're going to have to hope that if you're a socialist candidate, next Democratic, socialist, whatever the hell you want to call yourself, you got to make sure that the energy's up in your party, because if young people aren't feeling it, they're not going to turn out to vote. A lot of people don't understand why Democrats won Georgia. Democrats won Georgia because we got lucky because Republicans, again, were being loons and depressing their own turnout. If Donald Trump was not saying to everybody, oh, the system's rigged against me, the system's rigged against you, doesn't matter if you go out to vote, we would not have Senator Ossoff and Senator Warnock right now. What we see is so much Republican turnout was depressed all across the state. And so we need to be, cognizant that we don't dilute our own vote, don't depress our own vote in 4 years by having a fight between the center left and the progressive wings of the party. I think that's going to tear apart the Republican Party right now. I think we're seeing it. CPAC said something like 97% of conservative voters at the PAC. So like at the conference, that's not, that much of a good indicator of where the Republican Party is, because they're all fanatics if they're going to the convention.
So you talked about the energy needs to be there. And you talked about how Donald Trump's campaign perfected this new idea of social media influence and the psychology behind it. And you touched on this a little earlier. You were talking about meme culture. And it seems like Donald Trump and memes blew up in 4 years, right? And that was kind of an energy in a way, a momentum, a push, I would say. Even like the build a wall memes and stuff, right?
Well, we're seeing it everywhere. We're seeing it's not just the United States. We're seeing it in every country that populism is winning, nationalism is winning, and it's all a rebuttal to globalization. And Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump are both promising protections from globalization, just different ways of promising that. What this political scientist named Pablo Gabbado argues is that we're seeing this all across the world because political organizations tend to organize themselves in the manner that labor is organizing themselves at that time. During the industrial era, it was just about churning out the vote. During the post-industrial era, it was about building a big tent, bringing everyone in, and then consolidating power to a few people at the top to be able to be more agile with talking about policy. So there wouldn't be so much infighting. And then now what we're seeing is a shift to this kind of technology startup form of building and organizing parties. And where that ends is you have a person at the top, a charismatic leader, like I'm not claiming that Mark Zuckerberg is not necessarily charismatic, but you have this one person at the top who orders how things are to go, and the people do it, right? So you have a consolidation to one person. So one person is now the leader of the party, and you're not supporting the Democrat Party or the Republican Party, you're supporting the Bernie Sanders Party or the Donald Trump Party. And so what you have is just people organizing online how parties used to organize in person, right? They would get together, they would have everyone get together and say, this is our logo, this is our message, go off and conquer. Now it's really the public building the message, and it's the people on social media building the persona of the candidate. Yeah. And that has diminished the candidate's ability to control his own thing, but his image, but he wouldn't or she wouldn't want to necessarily, or they wouldn't necessarily want to control it, because if they're not responsible for what they say or what they do, because they can just be shifted into a positive or negative, then there's no way to hold them responsible for that. Every moment, there's no more gaffes. Every moment that's a positive or a negative can just be switched on the dime, right? When Donald Trump said nasty women, people on the right loved it, and people on the left used it to, take back that term and say, yeah, we are nasty women, and that, so, we completely deflated everything about it.
It's evident that social media has changed the game, right? And now we see social media doing good in terms of things like Facebook and Instagram pushing people to vote, to register to vote on their platform, and, kind of bringing out this I voted thing and all this stuff. And then we also see the sides of social media influencers pushing sides or perspectives. And if you haven't seen The Social Dilemma on Netflix, the documentary, I highly suggest you guys watch it. But it talks about how group polarization occurs now, because what social media is designed to do is their algorithm sees what you like and it pushes more content exactly like the ones you enjoy. So it produces this one-sided vision and causes more group polarization, and like you said, away from parties and more on candidates. What is your perspective on this change, right? Because there's good sides and bad sides to it.
Well, I would say I think it's really up to all of us to be aware that what we're seeing is not necessarily representative of what's going on. And I think it's also on the onus of all of us to take that knowledge and seek groups over social media that have different points of view, so that they are put into our social media stream. Not necessarily to say, that's stupid, I get mad whenever I see it. And you shouldn't get mad whenever you're seeing what another citizen's saying about, well, maybe some cases, yeah, you should be getting mad. But it's on all of us to be able to adjust that algorithm that's just trying to... It's all self-selected, right? It's not only the fault of this algorithm that's just giving you a bunch of stuff you want to see. It's also our fault for only selecting the stuff that we want to see,
you
right?
can follow other candidates.
You can follow other candidates. You can follow,
Get on your newsfeed.
If you're, a Democrat, follow the Republican Party's Twitter. And if you're a Republican, follow the Democrat Party's Twitter. Yeah, I think that's all the points I have
your
to
2
make.
cents. To be cognizant of it, and this even goes on as far as past politics, man. You see it in sports, you see it in everything, right? You see this group polarization, the meme culture attacking sides, and all sorts of things on that basis.
And one important thing to always recognize, I had a disagreement with my friend about this the other day, and I said, oh man, that's just like one of the most toxic things. Like there was some joke, and it was just really... Look, I'm a liberal Democrat, but it was like attacking Republicans in just like some like unnecessary way, right? And I was just like, that's super corrosive to our democracy. Why do you follow this account that's so corrosive to just like how you think about your neighbor? And my friend went, well, it's just a joke. And I go, yeah, but every time you scroll past that joke, you're seeing part of it, and your brain is accepting, whether or not you are actively reading it, or your brain is accepting some part because you scroll past it. Your brain can take in a lot of visual information and digest it for you without you realizing it very quickly. And so just scrolling past it cements and supports your regressive view, or slowly more aggressive view of the other side. And I also want to talk about, something when you're talking about social media influencers, advertising products. One of this new thing that I've seen just happening and I think it's really just because of the pandemic. They're trying to think, how do we make ads with no crew? Like you'll see like some video where it's just like some dude saying, hey guys, I just got this HelloFresh subscription. Let's open it up and see what's in there. Yeah. And it's like, oh, this seems like it could be my friend, but I've never seen this man before in my entire life. Yeah. Why do I care about what he's doing when he's opening up that box? But a lot of people will stop for a second and say, oh, that's a normal human being doing normal human being things. That must be for me and what normal human beings do. We've given so much power to such a few amount of people who've done nothing to deserve it other than just like post some pictures of a fancy lifestyle that we want to be living or make a joke. And then we're giving them power to influence how we view about politics, which is something that should be so separated from entertainment and comedy, because it's a very serious topic. It's a thing that so many Americans rely on to be good and provide resources that we desperately need. I get so mad when I'm, we're working in the State House and Republicans are trying to pass bills. For example, they passed a bill today that cemented a tax break for the owners of massive luxury yachts. And I'm like, sure, maybe the owners of massive luxury yachts needed a fucking tax break every once in a while. Give them, give them an in. But we are sitting here with millions unemployed. Thousands of Georgians can't get their unemployment check because the DOL isn't funded well enough. The Department of Labor isn't funded well enough. And we're talking about luxury yachts. It's so frustrating when people don't take what politics is seriously. And I feel like far too often it's either a joke, the butt end of a joke, or just this nihilistic, it doesn't matter anymore attitude because nothing ever gets really done in politics. Yeah. And if people just keep believing that and keep like supporting these ideas, memeing it, I think it's just, we're all worse off for it. And I think people who desperately need help are worse off for it because we're not being able to see the other side. We're never not being able to work with the other side. The other side's not being able to see us. And I think that's what we forget all the time. Why doesn't the other side just change their points of view? Why can't they see what we see? And you answered their own damn question by saying, I'm not going to follow that page too. We always think about, well, the other side's doing it wrong. But really, it's both sides. And we, all of us Americans, need to wake up and honestly say, social media is not the place to be talking. Obviously it's a place to discuss and have big boy conversations about what's going on in the world. I don't think social media is a place to be just making jokes about politics and disseminating stuff that makes people either feel negatively towards politics or makes someone feel a gut level disgust reaction to someone who supports the other side, because it's happening on both sides. And our side will say, well, we're the right side. Well, we're the left side, but we're the right side. So we don't have to deal with them or listen to them. But we live in a democracy where 76 million people voted for Donald J. Trump. 76 million people. If we can't meet them there and say, oh, this is maybe why you shouldn't, or maybe this is why black people shouldn't be killed by cops.
Okay, so I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
And you're talking about how entertainment should be divided from politics in a sense where people are just giving their 2 cents where 2 cents wasn't needed, right? Without thorough research and fact checking and all that. And I kind of see things like, if we let experts do the talking, I think we'd get a lot more done in this society. I think if we let scientists dictate how global climate change is going to affect things and what they think we should do, and we listened, I think we would have gotten a lot more done, and we still can, right? And I think experts can really help in this type of aspect, and things like knowing politics. What do you suggest for people that don't know a lot about politics and they have to make a vote and aren't entirely super into it like you? You know what I mean?
How can someone, for example, the Georgia Open primary had 20 candidates, and Reverend Warnock's name was literally the last name on the ballot. It's hard to, no one, well, actually, before I start this, I wanted to talk, when I'm saying that, you shouldn't be making jokes about politics, yeah, you shouldn't make jokes about politics all you want. My concern more broadly is the entertainmentization.
Well, maybe jokes is fine. It's just the corruption of the joke, right? Like taking it to an extreme or tying it to their personality. And
in seeing it as truth in a way. Yeah. And taking it at all for face value of being something that's informative to
anything more than a joke.
Jon Stewart famously said, if you're watching my show to get the news, you're not doing it right? Yeah. Like this is entertainment. Yeah. This is not news. Mm-hmm. And I think so many people watch John Oliver and think, oh, I'm now informed about the news.
There's Trevor
Noah.
And these people are entertainers.
They're entertainers. And on top of that, sure, I haven't watched Trevor Noah in a long time. I think he's much more different in how he runs his show than John Oliver. Uh-huh. John Oliver pretends to be a policy expert and says that this is definitively the right way to solve a policy issue. If there was a definitively right way to solve a policy issue for any policy issue, that policy issue would be solved. You're just getting what the one side believes to be the ideal policy issue and the ideal policy objective. I think if someone's uninformed about politics and they are going into the ballot box, whether it be a primary or a general, first thing to do is just Google the name and be cognizant of what the first few results are too. Because don't click just on the first result. They could be an ad. Make sure there's no ad there. I remember when you Googled Joe Biden's name anywhere, pretty much, I went to different states when I tested this theory, the first thing would come up with is sleepyjoe.com, and it was just like Donald Trump bought all the ads on Google to have the first thing be the website that he made for Joe Biden, other than the Joe Biden website. Read different news sources. When I'm making a new recipe, I just made fudge. I'm excited to try. Have some of this fudge. But when I make a new recipe and I just want to make a generic thing like fudge, I find a bunch of recipes, and if there's an inconsistency in the measurements, I kind of just even it out to be the center, right? Like, so if I'm finding inconsistencies on what this person's stance on an issue is, it's probably somewhere in the middle, right? Or it's, if more people are saying one thing versus the other, go to 3 news sources. If 2 out of 3 are saying one thing, then that's probably what they're doing, right? Stay away from op-eds, go to the State of the News section. Op-eds are just going to tell you opinions, right? Like that's not what you want to be reading.
Definitely read The Onion.
Read The Onion, yeah. And take it the Browitzer report or whatever it's called.
That was a joke for those. Please don't take The Onion seriously.
What you were talking about is that people can't be policy experts on everything.
And it's true.
And it's true. You can't expect everyone to be a policy expert on everything. But that same logic extends to the Congress. You can't expect every congressman or woman, or I guess it's non-gendered, every person in Congress.
We get it.
I'm a liberal Democrat. I have to watch what I say here. You can't expect every person in Congress to be an expert in every policy issue.
Mm-hmm.
So you expect those people to hire staff who are policy experts in certain policy areas. You have, environmental policy person, you have a domestic policy person, they don't make hardly any money. They make no money. And so on top of that, it's hard to convince people who are experts in their field, who may have college debt, who want to make a better wage than what Congress can be. We need to be spending much more on ensuring that Congress people have the resources they need to make an informed vote. Because not every person in Congress is a scientist, and there's no democratic, accountability if we just say scientists fix global warming.
But they could give their 2 cents.
They could give their 2 cents.
Yeah.
But we should be paying scientists to work in the Congress, right?
I completely agree.
We should be paying for staffers our staffers in Congress should be the smartest people when it comes to
easily
whatever they're talking about, but we're not paying people enough to be able to do that. And so my biggest thing, if we had to fix why Congress is crazy, and it's the one thing that they can never do because it looks really bad if you're getting primaried or you're going against your opponent in an election and they say, Congressman so-and-so passed a bill to increase a staff salary by 200%.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds really bad and you're not going to get reelected.
It's going to be a federal.
It would have to be a bipartisan effort to say, we don't have the resources that we need as a fucking federal country in the 21st century to handle all of these specific policy issues. Because I don't think anyone wants all of these policy issues that we want to get done to be just given to the bureaucracy to get solved, right, through delegation. We want our Congress people to know what the hell they're talking about and to say, this is what needs to get done, get it done, and not just say, something like this could happen, that'd be nice.
Yeah.
Can you please work on this, maybe?
Yeah.
And then in 4 years, when there's a different president, either they defund that, agency, or they just move around what resources are going to where, and all of that policy issue that you were trying to get done is not completely out the window because preferences changed in the agency and you weren't specific enough about what the hell you wanted. Anyway, I'll leave it at that.
Well, Noah, I appreciate you coming on, man. This was awesome. I enjoy talking about the social psychology and all that. That was pretty crazy talk.
Absolutely. I really just, if I could leave, people with one thing, it would just be try to see the other side a little bit more. And I'm not saying agree with the other side. I'm just saying literally have any kind of interaction that isn't directly aggressive with the other side because you want the same thing.
I agree.
And I would also say, be careful what you read. Be engaged in politics, not just online. Actually, go to a committee hearing, go to a protest, call your congressman or your state house representative, volunteer on a state house campaign. I'll tell you, people who work in state politics, they have even less resources than the federal government, and they're doing almost exactly as important, as much important work as the federal government. So yeah, I would just say, try to make our country not as wacko anymore.
Okay, so Noah, thanks for being here once again, man. And you have a Twitter handle, right?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Noah S. Cosi. That's Noah S. C-O-S-I. And if you're interested in street photography, Noah Slade Photos on Instagram.
Oh, that one's pretty dope.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for watching, guys, and tune in next time.